Self-improvement is masturbation. So what does a more muscular self-improvement philosophy actually look like? Let's find out. So there's an old Papua New Guinean saying that knowledge is only a rumor until it's in the flesh. Let's be honest, philosophy isn't really even a whisper of a rumor when it comes to real impact most of the time. We might say it's too academic and not enough academy, the original meaning of academy, meaning a place where philosophy was studied, but it was also a gym. This is the ancient Greek version of academy. There was no separation between muscular development, intellectual development, and character development. These days, philosophers and intellectuals more generally are often puny, kind of physically undeveloped people, and we don't expect them to have developed character either. Now, there are exceptions to this, so it's clearly not always the case. You know, Mike Mensa, before he started, I don't know, snorting gay crack or whatever he started doing in the end, but, you know, he at one point was physically and intellectually very capable. In the modern context, we could look at Mike Israetel, super smart guy, no doubt about that. Look at his personal growth channel. In terms of philosophers, you know, Plato meant broad. There was a big guy. Socrates was a soldier. And in modern times, Ken Wilber, actually, you know, really, he's a weightlifting philosopher. So today we're going to integrate these things and ask what a muscular philosophy would actually look like. I'm going to offer 5 different philosophies that may be a good fit. And at the end, I'm going to say, and here's how you can test your own. Here's how you can build your own using principles. I mean, muscular both metaphorically and literally. I see no contradiction between philosophy that builds muscle and one that gives power in your life. You know, very few philosophers have literally talked about the gym, though, you know, some of that Aristotle did, for example, some of the ancient Greeks did. Mishima, who I'll come back to, certainly did in more recent times. But his kind of, you know, Japanese ultra-nationalism is probably not a good fit for most people listening to this. Okay, first philosophy we'll look at, muscular Christianity. That's literally what there is a movement called, muscular Christianity. Now, Jesus was a carpenter, bro. I mean, carpentry before power tools, it was probably jacked. This is, you know, if you've seen carpenters or people that like stonemasons that work with their hands, they're jacked. Obviously, you know, he was Jewish, so some people are going to say Jewish people aren't athletic, but that's a bit unfair. And he was certainly a lateral raise specialist. So where I think muscular Christianity is strong as a philosophy is connecting people to meanings. So in our nihilistic times, a sense of meaning is incredibly powerful for driving you, a sense of a higher calling, a higher purpose, you know, being one of God's creatures, being part of the group of the world Christendom. This is hugely powerful. I've got both Catholic and Orthodox friends who I really respect, and you can see it gives their whole life purpose, which is huge. It just brings huge strength to every area. Muscular Christianity also has an emphasis on duty, self-sacrifice. Obviously, Christianity, the ultimate example of that, super powerful discipline. And most Christians I know, like most Muslims I know, don't just give in to every whim. They have some sense of controlling their desires. This is an incredibly strong philosophy in our hedonistic modern world. Muscular Christianity emphasizes character building, and it also emphasizes masculinity. Again, we live in a world which tends to shit on men and really puts them down. So anything which stresses masculinity, I think, is only positive. What's not so strong, perhaps, about the philosophy, well, Nietzsche will come on to next, that it was a form of slave morality. And there can be in Christianity this overemphasis on equality. And on a spiritual level, that might all be good, it might be a beautiful thing. Whereas I think the idea that we're all equal, as opposed to the other principle of Western culture, which is Greek arete or excellence, too much emphasis on equality isn't helpful, because we are not all equal in ability, even if we are ultimately morally. Next up, our boy Freddie M. So Nietzsche, every edgy teenager's favorite. Definitely not a Nazi, definitely not a Nazi, definitely not. If you have to say that, it sounds bad, doesn't it? His sister fucking was though. Nietzsche's thing, become the Übermensch, yeah? Become the superhuman. Superman obviously makes it sound a little bit like the cartoon character. The Overman, sometimes translate that. This is a great philosophy of self-transcendence, of becoming what one can be, becoming more. Absolutely fantastic philosophy in many ways. I think this philosophy is super muscular. The will to power. What could be more muscular than that? So yeah, Mishima, highly influenced by Nietzsche, clearly. Existentialism really coming out of Nietzsche, the idea of sort of choosing one's life. He had this idea of choosing one's values. Yeah, I think definitely can be a strong philosophy. Maybe on the minus front can get nihilistic, though I think that's a misrepresentation of Nietzsche. And it can be the sense of just like I'm forcing my way through the world and kind of overly macho in some ways. Next up, Objectivism by Rand, so mid-20th century. Yeah, if you're a and you want some excuses for being a cunt, this is your philosophy. Absolutely, you know, she's incredibly popular amongst like people in the city of London, not so much amongst philosophers, but you know, what's positive in it? Rationalism, individualism, reason as a primary source of knowledge, and modern, you know, there is a sense like what's real, let's look at the data. I think this is to be in contact with reality and to look at things rationally. Very strong philosophy. Really goes against sort of some of the new age bollocks out there. So, you know, that's positive. For me, there's an overemphasis on self-interest. Considers selfishness, virtue, and altruism a vice. I mean, that's not good. That's not good. That goes against all the spiritual wisdom you'll ever come across. And in my experience, it doesn't lead to a happy life. Rand also talks about aesthetics quite a lot, which I think can be quite muscular in the very literal sense. You know, an ideal vision of human existence was something she was pushing. And yeah, you know, there's something in that. Very few philosophers, I think, talk about aesthetics in a way that the bodybuilders would really get. So, you know, something in it. Next up, Stoicism. So this is a philosophy so simple that even American military vets can understand it. You know, if you're a wannabe Navy SEAL, this is definitely the one for you. Super popular by the likes of Ryan Holiday, who clearly needs to lift, but you know, he's a good guy. It's a broad church, so summarizing it briefly, I'd say what's muscular around it is it takes control. The idea of personal responsibility, what I can control, and then accepting the things you can't. So this is serenity prayer. I'd say another muscular philosophy is the kind of 12-step philosophy. You're not going to get muscular if you're a drug addict or an alcoholic. Trust me on that one. Yeah, don't do that experiment, kids. But Stoicism, super helpful. I think it's a little overly rational. It stresses that we can just think our way out of things. I don't think it often in the modern form is kind of like a kind of shit CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. It doesn't have enough praxis. It doesn't have enough physicality to it, I would say, as a muscular philosophy. But the emphasis on virtues is great. Wisdom, courage, temperance, justice, human flourishing. I think this is kind of muscular in that sense. Yeah, often it's misrepresented, Stoicism, in terms of just being tough and gritting it out. And so I think a more sophisticated version of Stoicism, which includes that, but also includes other people and, you know, not just tough suck, embrace the suck, you know, it's very simple, broicism, but a more sophisticated version of Stoicism, I think certainly has a muscularity to it. And it's not a surprise that this philosophy is embraced by a lot of the kind of male personal growth community. Fifth one before we get to how to make your own, vitalism. So this, again, it could mean a lot of things. Originally it meant that people were interested. There was a life force, some sort of magic essence that went through us. My interpretation of vitalism in terms of muscularity is embracing life, right? The feeling of life within oneself, what brings life, what makes you healthier. And to me, that includes, you know, working out, but it also includes spirituality, nature, relationships, lifting heavy weights, also playing with little kids, right? Like it can be, I was hanging out with my friend with his son and daughter yesterday, just wonderful, joyful, being in nature, him being a dad. There's a life. For me, that vital energy, we don't have to look at it esoterically like a non-scientific life force. That would be a minus. But there's a muscularity in going, yeah, what brings life? What a simple, beautiful philosophy for all of us. Okay, to finish up here, what are some principles for developing your own philosophy? There's 5, you know, another video on Buddhism you could look up as a 6th if you wanted another one. There's other videos on my channel on other philosophies, but just kept it to 5 here. But what about our own philosophy? I mean, ultimately, we are all serving something, right? People say they don't have a religion. It's like, yeah, you do. It's the same with a philosophy. We all serve something. We all have a way of looking at the world. We all have a system of what we consider good and bad. You can't function without an ethical system. You can't get up in the morning. Like, what would you do? All right, so here's my basic checklist. Does philosophy subjectively empower you? So just a feeling of like, right, I want to get up and do things. I want to take action in the world. Or does it depress the shit out of you? Does your philosophy just drain you of all energy? Next, does it actually enhance your action in the world? So we've got the subjective, but we've also got the more objective, like objectivism. Does it mean that I'm more effective in the world? So if my philosophy isn't in touch with reality, I'm going to screw up. So I don't know, I'm trying to make my YouTube videos better. Like, what's the data say, right? There's a reality. It's not just a subjective feeling that I liked it. Both of those things are important. So we've got subjective and then the objective, being in contact with the data. We could also say another principle, the intersubjective. Does my philosophy support and encourage nurturing human relationships? You know, as our resilience is really dependent on the quality of our human relationships. So there's a sort of I, it, and a we aspect to any philosophy, to me, which is muscular in the biggest sense. Lastly, fourth principle here, does it bring meaning? You know, we are in this meaning crisis, as John Vervaeke says, also a maturity crisis. Does it help us grow up, to use kind of Wilber's developmental models as another way of analyzing a philosophy? But yeah, does it bring meaning? Because for me, there's no muscularity to any philosophy which doesn't bring meaning in our nihilistic modern world. Two things to finish. One, flex your subscribe while subscribing. Secondly, really good video for you. Why weightlifting destroys victimhood. That talks about Jordan Peterson, who I haven't mentioned in this video. And another video we did on does Jordan Peterson even lift? Those two would be well worth checking out because I've excluded him. So look at those two videos. Cheers!